We are talking Deadpool right now, Deadpool Wolverine, and this popcorn right here that I'm eating is a good example of, you know, why I still go to the movies. I think that there's an advantage, to eating movie theater popcorn rather than, just eating popcorn at home. I don't know, there's something better about how it tastes. So the reason why I have this container actually is, you get a free refill, but I usually can't eat entire 2 containers of popcorn by myself. Also, I'm one of those people who does not think it's weird at all to go to a movie by yourself. I actually think it makes a lot of sense because movies are inherently, or should be inherently, a silent activity. Where I kind of see the advantage of movies if you're going with someone is if you talk about the movie afterwards with them. So what I tell my friends actually when I give dating advice is I say, hey, do not make a movie your first date. It's an awful first date because you're not going to be able to talk with that person at all, and you're likely going to be 2 hours, just sitting there, and it's going to be awkward, especially if it's at night. I don't know. But if you are in a committed relationship, I actually think movies are a great date if you see them and then you talk about it after. Either way, I go see what I want. And also, I kind of set my own schedule. So if I want to see something at 3 p.m., like a Marvel movie right now, I just go ahead and see it. And luckily, I was able to get a pretty good seat. And the theater, absolutely packed. So I want to talk about a few things here. First, kind of, the movie in general. Then I want to also be talking about Marvel and the broader kind of movie ecosystem. And then finally, I kind of want to give my thoughts on, maybe beyond the movie industry, kind of where I think the Marvel franchises are going. So let's start with actual Deadpool Wolverine. I thought that it was a very funny movie, very sarcastic. That's to be expected if you've watched anything Deadpool or read any of the Deadpool comics. So, I do think is this a 4th movie? I think by this movie, a few of the jokes, sometimes they don't, they're not as edgy to me now, if that makes sense. So I've heard them over the course of several movies now. So my kind of challenge to Deadpool going into this movie, my internal challenge that I wanted the director, the team there to meet was the jokes need to be new. I need to be seeing something that's an elevated Deadpool, and I think that they did that for the most part. And I think that Wolverine for the most part seemed like an easy way to kind of differentiate it, and it was. And I think that it worked fine for the most part. I'm a fan of both the X-Men and Deadpool. I tend to like particularly X-Men because, as someone that is a little bit different sometimes, I think that is what X is. We are X society. We are Good Morning X. We are making, things on X. And, X is kind of for people that are a little bit different sometimes, but can also have really amazing superpowers. So Wolverine is definitely a favorite hero of mine, superhero, not real life hero, but superhero of mine. And also Deadpool. Deadpool not as much for the saving people thing, more for the rhetoric, but put them together, and I think that it ended up working better than I expected, but not perfectly. So I think that the issue is sometimes Wolverine is a very stoic figure sometimes, and Deadpool is extremely talkative. So while this was Deadpool's movie, and I expected going in that Deadpool would obviously be carrying most of the dialogue, it did feel at times that Wolverine was just kind of there and kind of there to be the subject of Deadpool's jokes rather than, trying to necessarily have a good retort, back and forth riffing with each other. At least that's how I felt for much of the movie. So probably the first 2 acts of the movie, I kind of felt like Wolverine and Deadpool had this very weird relationship to watch as the viewer. So the thing is, I understood going in that you have to establish trust with these characters, and a big part of this warning spoilers, a big part of it is, Deadpool wants to save his world. It finds out via the TVA, so the Time Variance Authority, which has been in a lot of Marvel stuff recently. He finds out that Logan was kind of this key variable that was keeping Earth safe. Then there's a bunch of other stuff with the TVA doing evil TVA things. The thing is actually the TVA plot, I feel like it's the same general TVA multiverse plot that we've been seeing for a while now. It's kind of Spider-Man No Way Home, Loki, eating the popcorn. I made the mistake of not getting water. So, I feel like every TVA plot is kind of the same, if that makes sense. So the TVA is overall trying to be this good thing and establish stability, but within the TVA, there are actors that are trying to, destroy timelines or change timelines or take power and all this other stuff. It's not anything actually, I think, groundbreaking in general, like for a multiverse type plot. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I've personally been complaining a lot about Marvel movies in recent years. There's a conversation about woke in Marvel movies. And I think that is an important part of the equation. But there's also, a lot of elements here about like, hey, like, is Marvel doing anything here that is, actually unique? It's not just about like, hey, what race, what gender are the people? It's like, is there something here that's, interesting to me from a superhero perspective? And I think that is, become a increasingly tough bar as they become really reliant upon this multiverse timeline and this TVA timeline. So I'm not really a huge fan of it. What Deadpool did do is they did acknowledge how awkward it is. So Deadpool and Wolverine, they talked about the fact that Marvel moved. So they broke the fourth wall. That's what I was looking for. They broke the fourth wall to say that Marvel movies since Endgame have not been particularly good. And I agree with that. And I think that if I view this movie through the lens of being the multiverse killer, then I'm okay with it. But if this is the start of even more multiverse TVA timelines, I'm not sure if I can take much more of it. However, I did enjoy watching this movie. Did I think it was perfect? No. I thought there were some pacing issues. I thought there were some chemistry issues between the two leads. That surprised me a bit. I think the actors themselves were good. I think it was just challenging to kind of write Wolverine and Deadpool together and not have Wolverine's humor come off as very, very dry. And also Wolverine's style is speaking slower than Deadpool. So while many people, I think, going in would expect them to kind of be natural buddies, I don't think that played off as well as like the producers intended and people probably expected. That being said, though, I think that there was several heartwarming, touching moments in this movie. So a few of them was I think I loved, and again, spoilers, I loved how they kind of came together. Like you can kind of expect what the plot would be, but came together, understood each other more. They evolved as characters over the course of the movie. And I won't give, I'll give final spoilers for where I think Marvel's going. I'll tell you when that comes. But I think where the movie shined was actually a lot of the fighting scenes. So since I wasn't as big a fan of some of the dialogue between the characters, I thought that the fighting was actually extremely well executed. So there was just some great sequences, some great choreography, in particular, since there's kind of a multiverse aspect. Again, this is a spoiler, one spoiler, they do bring in various other characters. And there's an important part of the plot where these characters, let me just say, people clapped in my theater. My theater was packed and people clapped when these characters came on screen. One of them actually shocked me that they were on screen. I did not expect that character to be on screen, but I thought that it was cute. And I thought it was exciting fights. And this gets me, though, to, what was the point what was the point? And that's something I struggle with, because sometimes I feel with Marvel, I'm not watching a movie, but I'm watching, and they intend this to be the case. I'm watching, several movies. I'm watching, essentially a TV series of movies, more or less. And they did it in a way, I think, very well for Avengers all the way through Endgame. I think in retrospect, they weren't as good movies as people said, but I thought they did it, relatively speaking, pretty well. And I think after Endgame, and after, you don't have Iron Man as this core anchor for the kind of the universe anymore, I think it's gone off into, a lot more of these cutesy plots where you're introducing more of the characters in the MCU, which I understand. Disney bought Marvel. They want to take advantage of the intellectual property. And yeah, I agree. The multiverse thing, I didn't actually expect that much going into Deadpool. It actually makes sense when you think about it, because in the movie Logan, and this, I have no issue saying spoilers for Logan. It's been out for a decade and it's essentially required viewing before Deadpool. For the movie Wolverine dies. He actually dies. So Deadpool essentially, it gets into how do we get Logan back? And it's the multiverse thing. So it was fine, the multiverse thing. I just think it ended up being like another Marvel movie where it got super meta, where it was the fight scenes and I kind of knew what was going to happen. And I kind of knew how Deadpool would probably talk to the camera. I didn't really feel tension that the characters, like certain bad things would happen. Like it almost felt, I understand it's a superhero movie, so the good guys should win and all that, but like it didn't feel like the tension was there. It felt like Disney Marvel. Disney Deadpool, if that makes sense. Disney Deadpool. And I don't know if there's anything Ryan Reynolds could have done to change that, and I don't think it was a bad movie overall, but I just don't think it was something that made me go, wow, this was the movie that's going to save the Marvel franchise. I think that is probably one of the better Marvel movies that has come out in the last 2 to 3 years, but that's not saying much. We haven't had a lot of good movies to get people out to the theater for Marvel. And, if I had to compare it to Miss Walker, 7 out of 10, I would probably say a 7 out of 10. So, like, look, if Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange, the multiverse, did not exist, then I think that this movie would be a lot better in my eyes. I think I'd probably go maybe 8.5. If I'm willing to say like, hey, like, I know Deadpool really well, so some of the things didn't shock me. That's something I criticize critics for, where they're like, they give a movie a lower score because they know the material really well and they want to be wowed. So it's not always fair of me to take a superhero character that I know relatively well and apply my own standards when giving a review. Because for most people, they might still find a lot of the humor or a lot of the plot lines to be really unique. So I think that's actually something I want to take back, where I think if you're watching this as a general Marvel fan and not a Deadpool super fan, you will still like have a lot of fresh content. But because they've hit the multiverse stuff so much and kind of the whole thing, and this gets into spoilers, guys, for the Marvel movie, for this one. So I'm going to get into some spoilers very quickly. They bring in multiple versions. Again, spoilers, multiple versions of Deadpool. And we saw that already with Spider-Man. That was literally No Way Home. I'm sorry, but that was the big thing in No Way Home. And that was the thing that made people go wow, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and, I'm blanking on whoever the new, was it Holland? Yeah, Holland. All of them were there. And that was epic, I feel like. And I don't feel like, this was as epic because I feel like I saw it before. So let's say 7 out of 10. I think Miss Walker, 7 out of 10 is fine. And it's a solid 7 out of 10. It's not a bad 7 out of 10. I don't regret seeing this movie. I thought that the sound was great. There was a lot of things where I thought actually there was someone in the theater speaking and it was actually Ryan Reynolds' voice trolling me. So there was a lot of stuff technically that was great in this movie. So would I recommend seeing it in the theaters? I think so, yes, because I think the fighting choreography was stunning. But if you're going in expecting this to be the movie that saves Marvel, you're going to be disappointed. So where does that leave us with Marvel? Well, a joke actually from the Deadpool movie that I just saw was that now that they have Logan back, they're going to make him do movies until he's 90. Disney is going to make him do movies, Wolverine do movies until he's 90. And from a meta perspective, I kind of laughed. But even the meta element, it has been overblown. All these movies get so meta, and Deadpool is so meta. I almost felt like I was being meta within the actual, movie and entertainment industry as someone that has kind of worked in this space where it's okay, I found some of the things cute, but I don't know. I found them cute, but I found I was being talked to, trying to be clever rather than trying to produce a perfect overall movie, if that makes sense. So I don't know where they go from here. I think that if they have the willingness to kind of drop this multiverse, it's a multiverse weight. It's dragging them down in a pool. It's you put a rope around someone's neck with a big weight and you throw them in the deep end and they're trying to swim back up, but they're drowning. That's how I kind of feel like Marvel is right now. They're in the deep end of the pool and they can see the light. They can see if they get up that they can get to the surface and get air and show fans that, they're back. And I just don't think this movie was the one to do it. And maybe that's understandable. Maybe it takes a superhero character on the likes of a Tony Stark and Iron Man to literally reset the franchise. And I think maybe that's something Marvel needs to consider, the fact that they're integrating so many of these more minor MCU characters. While I might enjoy that sometimes as a fan, it can make it very difficult for everyone to track what's going on. And, I think that sometimes it leads to a lower quality for the movies versus, a decade or so ago where there wasn't, like in the original Captain America movie, in the original Iron Man movie, there wasn't all these people all flying around. There wasn't like 15 different superheroes in every movie. Like you didn't have to like understand everything to watch it. And I think, I don't know where Marvel is able to reset it. I don't know if they can with this whole multiverse thing, because I know like based on some of the recent movies I've watched, like they've gotten into Khan, who had the sexual assault type thing. So apparently he's out. But like, Khan from the Avengers is there. Like I don't exactly see where they're going. And my hope and my focus as someone that has enjoyed some past Marvel movies is that I'm going to go to the franchises I enjoy moving forward. So I will see another Deadpool movie. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'll see another Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Anything with a Spider-Man name on it, I will see. But am I going to go out to see Captain Marvel, honestly? I watched that, but like another Captain Marvel movie or like, I'll probably see Thor because it's funny. But I probably wouldn't rush out to see Thor anymore. Like I felt like I had to watch all those Marvel movies to truly appreciate going into the Avengers. And now I don't really know if they're, to make a pun or a joke, if there is an end game for where they are right now. And I think in closing here, where I'm going to talk about a preview for a different movie that I saw, there was the new Captain America movie coming up. And I forget his name, but the guy in Iron Man who becomes the new Captain America, he says, "I'm not Steve Rogers." It's like, that is a perfect way to describe what Marvel is. Marvel right now is not Marvel. And Marvel doesn't need to be the old, quote unquote, Marvel to make fans happy. They don't need to go and like create an entire, 25 movie arc that culminates in like Avengers Endgame. That might not be feasible again. And that might not be what people want. I think what people do want though is at minimum they want a compelling story. They want something that's not overly preachy with politics and culture war stuff. They want it to make general sense, in terms of the plots and stuff, and like, characters that are bigger should be stronger and all that. And I think that they want they want the creators of the movie to treat them, with respect. And I think Deadpool did hit on a couple of things there. Deadpool actually made some jokes about woke humor in Marvel, which was, I think, actually showed some self-awareness. I'm actually surprised they kept that in there. So maybe some of the woke stuff might drop down in future Marvel movies, but that's only part of the problem. My criticisms with Marvel are not only kind of the wokeification of Marvel. If you remove woke, what does that leave you with? It still leaves you with this multiverse problem and a lack of clarity around the direction of the entire MCU. So that is kind of my thoughts on the overall Marvel going forward. I gave you my thoughts on Deadpool specifically as kind of a pocket review. I might do a more thorough review later. I didn't want to go too into the plot because I say like, I'll give you a spoiler warning. It's very hard since I saw the 3 p.m. showing. Most of the people watching this probably haven't seen it yet. So I'm going to give it a little bit of time before going through the complete plot. But I hope this helped. I would recommend seeing it in the theaters if you are at least in general a superhero fan, because it was great audio, great visuals. But is this the movie that saves movie chains and saves Marvel? I don't think so. But it is a step in the right direction. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, anyone that came live to this and anyone that is watching this on recording. Stay tuned. We are going to have a review of Twisters as well. I keep saying I'm going to do that. It's been several days overdue. I'm sorry about that.